Show starts right now.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Stephen A. Smith Show, coming at you as I love to do every weekday over the airwaves of ESPN Radio and ESPN News, 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM listing nearest you, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM, Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio. Simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring with credit from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, K-A-R-M-A. Get knowing. Lots of stuff going on in the NBA, in college basketball, particularly with Purdue's victory in overtime over Tennessee, who I had going to the Final Four, by the way. Just messed up my whole bracket. I was in the top 1 percentile until last night. So I'm quite disgusted about that, but we'll get into that. Definitely today as the show progresses, there's some things to talk about as it pertains to the Lakers, some things to talk about as it pertains to the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo. Definitely worthy of talking about him, talking about James Harden and Houston Rockets ramrodding the Denver Nuggets, just beating them down. We'll talk a lot of NBA stuff as well. Of course, a couple of NFL items to get into as well, but baseball is on my mind, believe it or not, because it's a tale of two cities. It's a tale of two cities. And by the way, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless, best phones, best networks, no contracts. It's a tale of two cities. Because I watched the New York Yankees beat up on the Baltimore Orioles yesterday. I had no problem with that whatsoever. That was really, really nice to see. But in the MLB, at least for one day, the story was pertaining to the two-time reigning National League champions, the Los Angeles Dodgers, who opened the season yesterday smacking 8 home runs. 2 of them, by the way, by Jock Peterson, another 2 by Enrique Hernandez. Just blitzed former Dodger Zach Greinke in 3 2/3 innings. The 8 home runs tied a franchise record set in May of 2002. No team has ever hit more on opening day. You got Jock Peterson talking about how pretty crazy it was. Whenever we're working together like that, it's an exciting day out there. We all have high expectations. Here's the bottom line. The expectations for the Los Angeles Dodgers are that they'll make it to the World Series and then they'll lose yet again. The expectation for the Los Angeles Dodgers is that they'll end up being the West Coast version of the Atlanta Braves from the 90s. The version of the Los Angeles Dodgers is that of a team, whether it's the Atlanta Braves that had we went to the playoffs like 14 consecutive years, won their share of pennants, only delivered 1 World Series title, or it could be the Buffalo Bills that went to 4 straight Super Bowls and lost all 4. The expectation for the Los Angeles Dodgers is everything but what it should be, and that is a World Series championship, their first since 1988. That is the expectation for the Los Angeles Dodgers. Now, I don't know about the rest of you. But that doesn't make me feel good. It really, really doesn't. I look at this team, and thank God you hit some home runs because we're talking about somebody other than Clayton Kershaw. I get it. I understand it. But this is a Dodgers squad that's on a quest for a 3rd consecutive National League crown. And what we're talking about is that we're not talking about them winning a World Series. I wonder why that is. At some point in time, when you consider the taxes that you got to pay just to live in the state of California, at some point in time, the luxury of selling California shouldn't just have a tax for the modern day citizen. It should have a tax for players getting paid exorbitant dollars, having expectations saddled on their shoulders, and never living up to them. Let's not lose our focus here if you're a Los Angelian. Let's not lose our focus here if you're a Dodger fan. The quest is a title. And we ain't talking about a division title. We ain't talking about a conference championship like a pennant. We're talking about a World Series title. The kind that the Red Sox won last year. The kind that the Red Sox used since dating back to 2004, when they delivered about 3 World Series championships, erasing a curse that spanned over 80 years. Hell, we saw the Cubs erase a curse since 1908. But somehow, some way, the Los Angeles Dodgers, with the exorbitant dollars that they spend, being unable or incapable of winning a World Series. Yes, the pressure's on. And I think it's incumbent that somebody remind them of that. That's the way I'm looking at it. That's the way I feel about it. And I'll be damned if I'm about to apologize for it. Now, let me be very, very clear. I'm a diehard Yankee fan. I'm a native New Yorker, and I'm unapologetic about it. So I'll never root for the Dodgers more than the Yankees, but I root for them over anybody else. At some point in time, you got to show up. We got some cat for the New York Yankees, Luke Voigt, smacks a 3-run homer over the center field wall, but it was against the Baltimore Orioles. I'm not getting excited about that. I look at the Yankees as the 3rd best team in the American League, behind Boston and Houston, but the Yankees could take it. Boston had 108 wins last year. Houston had 103. The New York Yankees had 100. Boston in the offseason signs Chris Sale to an exorbitant contract spanning 5 years, first 3 years, averaging about $30 million, and then he goes up on the mound and stinks up the joint, which is indicative to me of a team that really struck lightning in a bottle last year that I don't anticipate they'll be able to do again this year. And so I'm of that mindset. Then when I look at these teams, it's a tale of 2 cities. The Yankees with Luke Voigt doing his thing, with Severino out and Sabathia out, and Gregorius out and others. But you still got Stanton. You still got Judge. You still got Sanchez. You still got Hicks and others, even though Hicks was out too. I look at the New York Yankees. I have expectations. But I'm confident they'll be able to live up to it. In the case of the Dodgers, not so sure. Not so sure, not at all. I'm not sold on them. I've never been sold on them. And believe it or not, I'm watching Kershaw, who's paled in comparison, equating his regular season performances to that of the postseason. Maybe if you didn't leave him on the mound so much, haven't pitched so many damn innings, in that Southern California sunshine, that heat, which could be draining. He's going to get his vitamin D now. Being out in all of that sun, that's true. He's going to get his vitamin D. But what's that going to do for you when it's time? These are all things that we got to take into consideration as we look at this Major League Baseball season. Another item to discuss, Bryce Harper, the 13-year, $330 million man. No, he ain't Mike Trout. He ain't 12 years, $426 million. He ain't that kind of player either. But Bryce Harper can ball. This is true. But Bryce Harper batted .214 until the All-Star break last year. Batted .300 after. But his numbers clearly paled in comparison, and they've dipped off a little bit since his MVP season in 2015. Nobody's saying he can't play. Nobody's saying he can't get it done. Nobody's saying he's not exciting and he's not box office. There's no question that unlike other sports, in the sport of Major League Baseball, where individual teams, you don't just have a national television deal, you've got individual teams able to negotiate their own television deals in their local market. Take, for example, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Why do you think they didn't blink at giving Mike Trout that money? Best in the game, young, a stud, age 26, 12 years, he'll be 38, will be balling for the vast majority of his career. Worth every damn penny. But it does help that he's going to be paid because they got a $3 billion local television contract. So you're looking at the Philadelphia Phillies with their local television deal. I don't know how much it's for. Who knows? They could be saying the same thing. But here's the reality. Philadelphia ain't Anaheim. And I know that you've got people in Anaheim that like their baseball. And I know you got people in Anaheim that know their baseball. And I know you got people in Anaheim that love their stars. They were out there in unison celebrating right outside the ballpark when Albert Pujols was brought on. I remember that. And you remember Hamilton when he came over from the Texas Rangers. I remember that. Neither of them lived up to what the dollars they were getting paid, at least according to some aficionados. And Mike Trout, nobody's expecting that. We know what a stud he is. And we know that he pays for himself. Question is, what are the Angels going to do about it? They going to get him to the postseason? Because as great as Mike Trout is, he's only been in the postseason one time in his career. Once. And he got swept by the Royals. So he doesn't even have a postseason victory on his resume. One player can't win baseball games for you. You got a better chance of winning with one player than you do with others, which is why Mike Trout is considered so great. But the bottom line is, you're limited in terms of what you can do as an individual when you're playing the sport of baseball. It's just simple. And don't get me started with how, for some reason, when you're charging that paying customer, and that paying customer braves traffic and spends dollars parking, and then gets to the ballpark to buy pop and popcorn and hot dogs and all of this other stuff for 3 times the price it would normally cost anywhere else. That baseball, unlike other sports, literally had the license to walk you. So Mike Trout could come to the stadium nearest you, like Barry Bonds did when I went to go see him play against the New York Yankees in June of one year. I forgot which year it was. And they walked him 3 or 4 times he came up to the plate. Ticked me the hell off. Boy, was I hot. Because I wanted to see him swing that bat. And baseball, you can intentionally walk somebody. And then they wonder why the game is suffering with the younger audience. It ain't just pace of play. It's stupid traditions that they hold on to like that. To be the man, you got to beat the man. I'm sorry. There should be no intentional walks. I know you old traditionalists will hold on to the strategies of a game, but damn it, everybody's getting paid. You professionals. It's me against you. Let's go. I didn't see Randy Johnson intentionally walking anybody. I didn't see Roger Clemens intentionally walking anybody. I didn't see Nolan Ryan intentionally walking anybody. I didn't see that. If I'm a stud and you're a stud, let's get it on. That's what we see in the world of sports. It's what the younger generation expects. And when you cut them short, they're going to let you hear about it. It's just that simple. But I digress. I was talking about Bryce Harper. And I brought him up for a reason. Because yesterday in 3 at-bats, he struck out twice. Went 0 for 3, struck out twice. And the fans in Philadelphia let him hear it. Ladies and gentlemen, they didn't throw any bottles at him. They didn't physically harm him. They wasn't like some punk in Europe that snuck up behind a soccer player and tried to headline him. Or clothesline him, rather. They didn't do that. They just booed. That's perfectly their right. Philadelphia is no joke. Understand that Philadelphia does not play. 0 for 3, a walk, 2 strikeouts. Philadelphia does not play. You got a 13-year, $330 million deal. What you going to do with it? Got them loud sneakers on. They ain't going to cut it. I like Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper can ball. I've got faith in Bryce Harper, but make no mistake about it. You talking about living someplace for the duration of your career, being comfortable with you and your family? Let me give y'all a little tidbit of information. Philadelphia ain't Southern California. Philadelphia in a lot of places. See, you can stink up a few places and then go into the burbs in your merry way and live your life. Nobody gonna bother you. That ain't Philadelphia. Philadelphia, blue-collar city, y'all. I'm talking about Philadelphia and all its surrounding areas. Parts of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, all those surrounding parts. You don't get to show up in the city of brotherly love, stick up the joint, and life gonna be comfortable for you and your family. That's not how Philadelphia rolls. Philadelphia is a different animal. You can sign for $330 million. and you stinking up the joint, Philadelphia going to have a problem with you. Make no mistake about it. That's how they roll. That's who they are. And I don't have a problem with it. They don't let you hear about it. I don't have a problem with them booing Bryce Harper on opening day because what they're doing is disseminating a message, not just to him, but for the world to recognize. You don't get to be comfortable here. You get to perform here, but not be comfortable. You got to be that dude that shows up and handles your business. When Dr. J was loved, it's because we saw the doctor making house calls with the great Brent Musburger telling us so. When Bernard Hopkins was beloved, it was because he was the undisputed middleweight champion of the world, delivering the goods. When Charles Barkley was performing, it's because Charles Barkley could ball. Round Mound and Rebound showed up on the basketball court. They couldn't hold it against them, but so much for losing to Isaiah and the Pistons. Or Michael Jordan and the Bulls. But make no mistake about it, he showed up. When they showed love to Moses Malone, 454, God rest his soul, he showed up and handled his business. When they loved their six-man extraordinaire, Bobby Jones, there was a reason for that. When they loved Mike Schmidt, there was a reason for that. When they loved Pete Rose, even though he starred in Cincinnati for years, before starring in Philadelphia, there was a reason. Charlie Hustle, the greatest nickname for a professional athlete in the history of sports, as far as I'm concerned. When they loved my brother Allen Iverson, it wasn't just because Allen Iverson was some maverick. It wasn't just because he was willing to buck the status quo from time to time. It wasn't just because he was a 6-foot guard, barely 165 pounds, soaking wet. Somebody from a size and physicality perspective that they could absolutely positively relate to and or drop over. It was because he delivered. Allen Iverson never won a championship. Tell me one person who refuted the fact that he was a Hall of Famer when it was time. When at 6 feet, 165 pounds, this man had no problem carrying the Philadelphia 76ers on his back for a decade. That was who he was. They remembered him and Vince Carter going back and forth with 50-point games in the Eastern Conference semifinals in 2001, the year they went to the NBA Finals. They remember Game 7 against Milwaukee for the Eastern Conference Finals against the Milwaukee Bucks. Glenn Big Dog Robinson, Ray Allen, Sam Cassell and the boys. That Allen Iverson dropped 44 in a Game 7. They remember him dropping 48 in Game 1 when he drilled that game-winning jump shot and stepped over Tyronn Lue in Game 1 against Kobe and Shaq. It was the moments that he provided where he delivered. This is what Philadelphia requires. Other cities prefer it. Other cities ask for it. Some cities plead for it. But very, very few cities demand it to such a degree that they are unapologetic about the fact that they will make your life uncomfortable if you don't grasp that reality. So if that's the case, why wait with Bryce Harper? Why delay it? Why not let him know from day one, as a Philadelphia Philly, these are the standards upon which we hold you accountable for. Yes, it would be nice if you could recruit, and we know you didn't get Mike Trout. It'd be nice if you could recruit better players to come there with us. We appreciate that. But ultimately, when you go up to the plate, that ain't about who you brought to the dugout. That's about you. And you got to deliver. Plain and simple. Even though Philly ain't won a damn thing in years. That ain't the point. The point is, you collected $330 million over the next 13 years. We pay those amount of dollars, those exorbitant amount of dollars for a star. That's what we want. And we ain't apologizing for it. 888 say ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We got a lot of stuff to get into because I didn't think that was a call. That foul should have been called against the kid for Tennessee on Purdue last night when he launched that three-pointer. I thought he kicked his foot out. You got to give him a space to land, and I know that there's an argument that can be made, but the bottom line is the kid shot the ball and kicked his feet out. And because of that, I don't think it should have been called as a foul, particularly with 1.7 seconds left. Tennessee up 2. You essentially gave Purdue an opportunity to win the damn game. If he hadn't missed the front end of those 3 free throw shots, he made the last 2. But if he had not missed the first, and he had made all 3, Purdue would have won on that call. I don't think that's right. I don't think a referee in that particular situation should make that call. But that's just me. The other thing I'm going to get into are the Los Angeles Lakers as their season comes to an end. ESPN's very own Dave McMenamin wrote a very, very compelling argument about the Los Angeles Lakers and some of the things that have transpired to ruin LeBron James' first year in a Laker uniform. We'll discuss whether or not LeBron is accountable or Irvin Magic Johnson. All that and more coming up right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. That was Straight Talk Wireless, nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. By the way, if you haven't tried the delicious high-quality meat from Butcher Box, you're going to be blown away. From grass-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska, Butcher Box has over 20 different cuts of meat to choose from, all raised humanely with no antibiotics or hormones ever. With free shipping, you can get a month's worth of the best tasting meat from Butcher Box for less than $6 a meal. I'm going to repeat that last part because evidently some of y'all are hard of hearing. Okay? Remember when we said they're raised humanely? No antibiotics, no hormones, ever. Think about that. Think about what that can do for your health as well. Plus, it's free shipping. Plus, when you think about it,
6 Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Minutes past hour number 1 back here on the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Also, ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, small business protection for more than vehicles, with specialized coverages to protect against financial loss. More at progressivecommercial.com. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I'll get to Magic Johnson and the Lakers in just a second because you can see the article up on ESPN.com by Dave McMenamin, so you can definitely check that out. I'll also be talking about this kid, Carson Edwards, who got fouled on that three-point shot. He had 29 for the game, only shot 8 of 22 from the field, but went to the free throw line for 14 shots. Lamont Turner was the guy that had the foul called against him for Tennessee. I didn't think it was a foul. Whether you're going to win or lose, I think it should be on that play. I don't think the referee should have gave them a call like that, but that's just me. But Purdue knocked off Tennessee. That was my pick to come to get to the Final Four because they're not going to do so. It'll probably be Virginia and Purdue that it comes down to. I'm rooting for Purdue because I don't want to see Virginia in there. Virginia is very, very good, very talented, but their defense is so stout. They won last night's game and against Oregon. They shot 35% from the field and 27% from three-point range, and only scored 53 points and still won. That's just butt ugly basketball. Why would I want to see that? I don't want to see that when we talk about a national champion. So I'm just not interested in that. I hope Purdue wins. I hope we don't see Virginia in the Final Four, but with my luck, we will. And we'll go from there. By the way, I want to give some love to this kid, Ryan Klein, out of Purdue. Had 27 points in 29 minutes, hit 10 of 13 shots, 7 of 10 from three-point range. Hadn't had 22 points scored all season long. Scored about 22 in the second half alone. This brother was stroking it. It was something special, no question. But let me get to the phone. Let's go to Tyler. You're live with Stephen A. What's up, Tyler? How are you?
Hi, Stephen. It's a pleasure to meet you. a huge fan of your show right now. And the fact is, I'm watching you on TV right now.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Go ahead.
No problem, my man. Now, I have been keeping up with the MLB. I'm a diehard fan of the Tampa Bay Rays. No disrespect to the Yankees. No disrespect to the Dodgers. No disrespect to any of these guys. But, my brother, what I want to know from you is, do you see any chance of the Rays having a chance to get back into the series? And if so, how? And if so, and if not, what can they do differently to get a chance back into the World Series?
I don't see it, man. I don't see it. Y'all haven't made the postseason since 2013 when you lost in the ALDS. You've been out of the playoffs for the last 5-6 years. The last 5 years, I'm sorry. But you know what? You won 90 games last year. You won 90 games. I got to give credit where credit is due. You just, listen, Boston's got the highest payroll. I think they've spent about $226 million, if I remember correctly. You look at the Yankees, you know their payroll is up there. The Astros just signed Verlander. You see that they still have Altuve and Springer and Bregman and these boys. I just look at Tampa and I see a team that's talented and talented enough to knock folks off, to make things interesting, but devoid of the ability monetarily to get those elite players that's really going to make a difference and to hold on to the ones that ultimately develop into something. So I just don't see it. I really, really don't. I don't know much about them because it's not like I watch the Tampa Bay Rays too much. Please don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying by default alone, from being in the same division as Boston, as Houston, as the New York Yankees, I just don't see it.
I don't blame you, my man. The fact is, I couldn't be happier that the Red Sox won last year's World Series. I mean, don't get me wrong. My old man is a die-hard Red Sox fan ever since he was younger. And the fact is that the Rays have been the comeback kids every chance that they got. And just yesterday, I'm sure you know that they started off on a very slim foot when they lost to Houston 5-1. And the fact is, chances are that they might have a chance if, and this is a big if, a miracle can happen. Would you agree, my brother?
No. Oh, well, listen, anybody's got a chance if you depended on miracles. I mean, listen, if miracles happen, I might get an afro. You never know. I mean, anything's possible, right? When you bring miracles into the equation. But the reality is that, you know what? That's not going to happen unless a divine intervention or I get some kind of miracle assistance. Miracles, anybody can do anything, but I just don't see that being something that works in their favor. I appreciate the call, man, but thank you so much, Tyler. Keep on calling. Thank you. Let's go to Mixon. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me, bro.
Hey, what's up, Steve? How are you?
I'm all right, man. Go ahead.
So, I'm really excited about this upcoming season. Granted, we're playing the Oilers right now, and they're probably going to be the league.
I need you to speak up and stop acting like you talking to me privately at a restaurant or whatever. There's millions of people listening. I need you to speak up, talk with some bass in your voice, and act like you want to be heard, bro. Speak up.
So, I'm excited about the upcoming season, and granted, we played Baltimore, and they're going to be the worst team in the league. But you know what? These are the games we need to win. Now we see the difference between us losing and not getting into the division. I'm a little skeptical about the pitching. Hopefully,
you should be. You should be. I got news for you. I'm skeptical even if Severino does come back, and I know he's coming back. He's scheduled to come back in May, but I'm skeptical even when he's back. Listen, you know what I don't like about the Yankees, Mixon? Let me tell you what I don't like about the Yankees. I understand the bullpen is stout. I understand we expected some big things from this kid Paxton. I'm looking at Stanton and Judge and Sanchez and Hicks and all of these boys. When everybody comes together, when Gregorius comes back, and we'll go with Tulowitzki or whomever right now until he gets back. I get all of that. All right? You know what? And you got Chapman is... But what wins championships, Mixon?
Sure.
And who has it?
Everybody but us.
Listen, here's my point. Yeah, I'm talking about your rotation. I know you only need starters to go about 4 innings, and then you give it to the bullpen. But I have yet to see a team, and I could be wrong, but I have yet to see a team win a World Series championship without at least one ace. And I don't consider Severino an ace. I think he's very good. But I don't consider him an ace. I think Verlander is an ace. I think not the Chris Sale we saw yesterday, but Chris Sale that we saw last year is an ace. I think Scherzer is an ace. People like that are aces. DeGrom is an ace. If the Yankees, to me, got DeGrom last year, if they had gotten the Mets to give him up, which they weren't going to do, I think the Yankees would have won last year. That's how I feel. I think that you got to have that kind of starting pitcher, at least one of them, in your lineup. And then not only do the Yankees not have that, Boston and Houston do. That's my problem.
Well, what I think is going to happen is I think the Giants, I think the Giants are going nowhere real quick. I think Bumgarner is going to be on the block from the trade deadline, and I think Mr. Steinbrenner over there is going to make.
Well, listen, we can talk Bumgarner all we want to, but are you sure that's who you want? Are you sure that that's the guy that? Listen, I like Bumgarner. I saw what he did in helping the Giants win a World Series. I saw how he shut down the Kansas City Royals. I saw how he pitched under pressure, not just for the pennant, but for the World Series. I get all of that. What I'm asking you is this: are you sure he's still gonna be that same dude by the time the Yankees are able to get their hands on him? I don't know. I really don't know. 6-7 last year, 3.26 ERA, only pitched 129 innings. I don't know. Is he still that Madison Bumgarner? That's what I want to know. You don't either. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. Let me transition to a little NBA for a second. If you go to the cover of ESPN.com right now, our very own Dave McMenamin, who covers the Los Angeles Lakers for ESPN, wrote an article and it's headlined AD as an Anthony Davis, air guitar, and dysfunction. How the Lakers wasted LeBron's first year in LA. Now, Dave McMenamin and these guys, of course, you look at LeBron and this could, LeBron James has to be pleased with the fact that this article was written, but that's neither here nor there. Dave McMenamin does a damn good job. Let's make sure we're clear about something. The Los Angeles Lakers have been a disappointment. When LeBron went down, things were never the same. Go and read the article, see some of the details that Dave McMenamin pointed out, and you'll appreciate where he's coming from. LeBron James talking about AD before they were going to play the Pelicans. The young guys on the team feeling good about themselves, rolling at the time, were taken aback a bit. And all of a sudden their comfort zone was rattled because they knew they could be traded for AD. We look at Magic Johnson because that's who I look at. And the reason why I don't look at Magic. Here's where I'm looking at LeBron. Are you going to be able to convince somebody to come play with you? You got a multitude of free agents out there. Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Kawhi Leonard, Klay Thompson, just to name a few. Are you going to be able to convince anybody to come and play with you? If that answer is no, I'm not feeling that. Because to me, when you're a superstar the caliber of a LeBron James and you've got Tinseltown as your backdrop, you should be able to get somebody to come play with you. But I look at Magic because Julius Randle is gone. I look at Magic because Zubac was traded to the Clippers. I look at Magic because Muscala is here. Mike Muscala with his scrub self. I look at those things. I look at him working with a rookie GM and Rob Pelinka, who I respect, and I have no issue with him. But there are a lot of people in the NBA who do. He's a rookie, Magic's a rookie. And so you got two rookies as executives. And you're going up against Jerry West and Doc Rivers and Lawrence Frank and a billionaire and Steve Ballmer, who's worth about $40 billion. I'm just saying, y'all. I'm just saying. 888-SAY-ESPN. This is the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you missed my opening segment show, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith podcast, brought to you by the Capital One Saver Card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and entertainment, 2% at grocery stores, and 1% on all other purchases. Hey, what's in your wallet? Also, the college basketball season is winding down, and that means we must turn our attention to the Wendy's Wooden Watch. The John R. Wooden Men's Player of the Year Award presented by Wendy's is the most prestigious individual honor in all of college basketball, awarded to the country's most. Whether or not he was the best player on Duke, because that's how big time. That's right.
Into the season, he
exactly.
Was draft.
And that's how big time he was. But Zion is definitely elevated to another level. And when we look at R.J. Barrett, he's not ambidextrous. You don't see him using that right hand nearly enough. It's almost like he's going left. He's going left. Do you think to some degree R.J. Barrett
not a good shoe deal? He's going to probably be on a bad team. But no, I don't think it's compromised. I think just what Zion was able to do and the energy. Look, Zion impacts your locker room. He impacts your marketing. He impacts your team's visibility. I mean, he instantly does that. I mean, that's just the way it is. I don't think it's anything which R.J. Barrett didn't do. I think it's more what Zion Williamson did do. Now, R.J. Barrett's game, he reminds me of DeMar DeRozan a little bit. And he's kind of a slasher, slice and dice guy that gets in the lane. He's got to be able to shoot it better off the dribble, not as runners, not at the rim. He's pretty good three-point shooter with his feet set. He's learning. He's doing a better job of facilitating, getting others involved, and he could be a good defender. I like his game. Morant has a second speed, elevates. He's got a gift of vision that is very, very rare. With more space and better players, I think he could be really, really, really special because, NBA, you outlet the ball to the hash mark almost, or about three-point line extended. Now, when he's taking two dribbles, he can drop dimes from there with right hand, with left hand. Like I see he's the Patrick Mahomes of college basketball. He's as good at passing with his offhand as Mahomes does when he's zigging and zagging, running out of the pocket and flipping it around all over the place. So he's going to get better. He's got a really good feel. He's a very good teammate. I think his upside is incredible because of his speed, his vision, his elevation. I just think he has a chance to really, really move the needle.
ESPN Radio, presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-FLOWERS Twitter feed.
Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio is being presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. Plus, tune in to baseball's opening weekend for an NL East battle as Bryce Harper and the Phillies host the Atlanta Braves. Presented by Indeed. Coverage of Sunday Night Baseball begins at 6 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app, and at 7 p.m. on ESPN. King, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Yo, Steve-O, I just got a quick question for you. Do you think it's fair criticism of Magic Johnson not being able to land the marquee players like Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, when it's those players that are coming out and saying they want to play for the Lakers, which makes it harder for the Lakers to even acquire them because of the envy that the Lakers, has around the league? Well,
no. Listen, I'm not going to blame Magic for that. I mean, the fact of the matter is there was a culture that existed within the Lakers franchise that once Paul George went to OKC and saw how it was with Russ compared to what he was hearing, the fact that, you got a guy like Kawhi Leonard that was out there and the San Antonio Spurs were not going to trade him to L.A. That's not necessarily Magic's fault. But I will tell you, when you see a Julius Randle, when you see a Zubac, guys like that are traded, it does leave you, or let go, it does leave you scratching your head. What you trade Zubac for? What you trade him for? Mike Muscala? You got to be kidding me. And you look at a Julius Randle, yeah, you didn't want to pay him the $9 million, but you're going to give it to Rondo? The fact of the matter is that even though Rondo is a stellar point guard in the postseason, he's not a shooter. And LeBron's success has come when he's been surrounded by shooters. So, I look at it from the standpoint, LeBron's not innocent in all of this. Please don't get me wrong. He walked into a situation, left a better situation than what he walked into, to be quite honest with you, because the only thing better about the Lakers appears to be the weather at this particular moment in time. But he's right to have some faith in Magic Johnson based on Magic Johnson, who he is. but Magic's got to get it done. And it's not just about acquiring a superstar to pair with LeBron James. It's by making better moves to actually build a franchise. The way the Clippers are doing it, because right now the Clippers are doing a better job. There's just no arguing that. I got to get on out of here. Jay Bilas is up next to start off hour number 2. We'll obviously be getting into some NCAA basketball. The Final Four will be determined this weekend. Who better to talk about that than with my man Jay Bilas? He's up next to start off hour number 2 with Stephen A. right here on ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Host, The Stephen A. Smith Show, starts right now.
Welcome to hour number 2 of the Stephen A. Smith Show, right here with you over the airways of ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 250 plus markets across the United States of America. Check your AM, FM dial nearest you. Plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80. Plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. The Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Credit Karma. Get your truly free credit scores and free credit monitoring from Credit Karma today. That's Credit Karma, Karma. Get knowing. Also, need seats to a game? Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid seat. Always an honor and privilege to have my next guest on the line, my buddy, an extraordinary analyst on the sport of college basketball and all things basketball as far as I'm concerned. You can catch him on any sports center. You can catch him on college basketball game day. You can catch him calling games because it's what he does. He's exceptional at it. Arguably the best in the business. The one and only Jay Bilas, my buddy, is live right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio, ESPN News. What's up, man? How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Stephen A. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Let's get right to it because we saw Purdue and Tennessee go at it last night. The number 3 and 2 seeds are respectively in the South region. Purdue ends up winning 99-94 over Tennessee, the 3 seed beating the 2 seed. We saw the play near the end of the game where a foul was called on that 3-point shot. What were your thoughts?
You know, it's really the call that literally could have gone either way. If it hadn't been called, I don't think anybody outside of a Purdue fan would have been bothered by it because it was offense-initiated contact. But since there was contact, I don't think that many people are bothered by it either. I think, honestly, Stephen A., I think if you had put a bunch of officials in a room and said, all right, this play was called a foul, justify it, they would have all justified it. But then if you would have taken another group of officials and said this was a no call, they would have justified that too. You can fly by a shooter. The rule says you can fly by a shooter, and if a player kicks his leg out, it's not a foul. And I felt like that's what happened, and I think you could see it was minimal contact because Carson Edwards landed in the exact same spot he took off from. So, look, I'm not bothered by the call, but at the same time, I don't necessarily think it was correct either. I would have been fine with a no call. I think that was the best way to go.
Jay Bilas, when I'm looking at Purdue, I'm looking at a team that was the number 3 seed. They beat Old Dominion by about 13. They blitzed Villanova, the reigning national champions, by about 26. Then they come and they beat Tennessee at number 2. I did not see this coming. That's typical during the NCAA tournament. There's usually a team that surprised you. But how much should we be surprised, actually, by what we're seeing Purdue do in this tournament?
Probably not crazy surprised because they were the co-Big Ten champions along with Michigan State. They started out the season slowly in their non-conference and did not play particularly well, especially defensively. But this is where analytics gets you. You know, analytics tells you what you've done over the course of the year, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what you've done lately or what you're capable of doing. And in the last probably month and a half, Purdue has been one of the 2 or 3 best defensive teams in the country from a numbers standpoint. And they've been one of the better offensive rebounding teams over that period of time as well. And they've got one of the best players in the country, Carson Edwards, just had 42 against Villanova, and I think he's got 97 points in his 3 tournament games. So they're legit. They're really, really good. Do I think they're better than Gonzaga? I don't. Do I better? I don't.
Jay Bilas, are you there? We lost you for a second. Are you there, Jay Bilas?
But I don't think they're the best team, but they're capable of beating anyone.
Okay. Jay Bilas right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. The game that I'm looking forward to, Jay, is North Carolina versus Auburn. I mean, I paid attention to Auburn. Obviously, they won 28 games this year, 28-9 overall. I'm looking at them and what they're capable of doing. I saw what they did to Tennessee in their conference tournament. Talk to me about this Auburn squad, because I got North Carolina winning the national championship. So that it's clear about what I think about them. But Auburn is obviously somebody not to be slept on. What are your thoughts about Auburn?
Auburn, another team, the last 10 games, they've been as good as anybody. And they've won 10 in a row. They're making 12 threes a game over that period. They've got a great backcourt. Jared Harper and Bryce Brown are as good as just about any backcourt. I wouldn't put them as number one, but they're in the top 5 or 6 of all backcourts. And it's funny, Stephen A. This game is between two teams that when they play other people, they are trying to get their opponent at their tempo. It will not be hard to do in this game because both of them want to get up and down. The difference is that Auburn tries to turn you over. They turn their opponents over about a 25% rate. So 1 out of every 4 possessions, they're forcing a turnover and taking it the other way, and they shoot a ton of threes. Carolina's more in the paint. And I think the difference is going to be on the glass. If Carolina gets a lot of offensive rebounds, they win. If Auburn competes on the glass and makes it close, like Carolina's out-rebounding their opponents by 25 in the tournament, by 10.5 overall during the season. If Auburn hangs on the glass, they win. If they don't, then I think Carolina can beat them, or will beat them.
Jay Bilas, stay with me on this one about Carolina. I watched Cameron Johnson, all right, against Duke in the ACC tournament, and he was phenomenal in the first half. Disappeared somewhat in the second half. I look at a guy like Kobe White. This guy has the potential to be a top 10, maybe even a top 5 pick in the NBA draft, according to some folks. I like his skills. I like his moxie, but I think his dribble is too high. I might be being ultra critical, but it's from a positive perspective, recognizing their potential, but some things that could be an impediment to their success, particularly when they're vying for a national championship. What do you think about those two guys, their strengths and weaknesses, and what role they'll play in North Carolina, whether it be tonight or beyond?
Well, Cameron Johnson has to play well for Carolina to win. He's their best shooter, and you hear coaches say all the time, every time he shoots it, you think it's going in. Well, the reason with Cam Johnson you think it's going in is because it's all he does. He shoots almost 48% from three-point range.
Yep.
And he's every time he pulls up on a one dribble pull up, he drills it. If he's open, forget it. He's going to make it. And Kobe White is improved throughout the year. He's 6'5". And he is really, really good. I mean, the different thing about Carolina this year is they've got 3 or 4 different guys. When they grab a rebound, they just take it. So they play as fast as they ever have. Hopefully, Mr. Little will be healthy for them because that gives them another, great finisher and a guy who can offensive rebound, and he's so athletic. But I'm not bothered by Kobe White's high dribble. It's funny. I've looked over the course of the years. It seems like a lot of the best ball handlers in basketball have a high dribble. But he, I think the speed at which they play and the fact that they can continue to get to the rim and they are relentless, I think it's just a question of whether they take good shots, Stephen A. Like when they settle for jump shots and they're not getting the ball into the lane and getting it to the rim, I think they can let teams hang around them. But I think you can measure a lot of that by how many free throws they shoot. If they're taking too many jump shots and not getting to the free throw line, not having that kind of balance, then they're a little bit more beatable. But really, it's only a few teams. Virginia's beaten them, and then Duke, and that's about it in the last couple of months. They've been excellent.
We're talking to the great Jay Bilas right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Let me stay within the region because we got the Houston Cougars. This is a team that's won 33 games this year. This is a team that obviously won their conference with a 16-2 record. We know the job that Kelvin Sampson has done with them, but they're going up against Kentucky. I like this kid, Corey Davis. I like him a lot. Galen Robinson as well. What are your thoughts about Houston in terms of their legitimacy? I asked you this question on TV earlier this morning because a lot of times we see guys out of the SEC, out of the ACC conference and something like that, and we don't pay nearly as much attention to them as we should. But Houston, clearly, when you win 33 games, we need to pay attention to you, and I think it's time to pay attention to Houston. What are your thoughts about them?
Yeah, they're really tough, Stephen A. Like, they've been through it. They weren't the highest recruited guys. They were recruited, but they weren't recruited by everybody, those kind of guys. So they do play with a little bit of an edge to them. They've beaten really good teams this year. I mean, they beat LSU earlier in the year. They obviously beat Cincinnati, UCF. They beat just about everybody they played, really. But they're talented. They're deep. They're not all that big. They've got good athletes and good size, or decent size, not great size. Mm-hmm. But they're tough-minded, and they defend and they rebound at a really high level, and they can shoot it. So Armani Brooks is like a catch-and-shoot guy, not really a put-it-on-the-deck guy. Mm-hmm. And then Corey Davis Jr. is one of the best guards in the country, and he's a tough-minded player that doesn't take a backseat to anybody. They're not as well known, and I think that gives them a little bit of an edge. It fuels them. And I'll be interested to see how they do against Kentucky, because I think without P.J. Washington, if he's not able to play, or if he's not able to play at a high level, I think Houston can win.
We talked about so many of these guys and what they could do and the potential to excel on the next level. What are your thoughts about P.J. Washington? This is a guy that averaged nearly 15 a game. He leads Kentucky in rebounding with 7.5. He shoots over 40, about 42%, 41.9 to be exact, from three-point range. He seems like a pretty damn good player, and you just spoke to his level of importance. How come we haven't heard more about P.J. Washington when we're talking about, just expectations of what someone may do on the next level?
Probably because he hasn't done it all year. He kind of turned it on in the middle of the year, where he became a primetime performer. He'd shown flashes before that where he'd have 27 points, 16 rebounds or something like that. Then the next game he has 8 points, 4 rebounds or something. Right. And in middle of the year he turned it on to be a superstar caliber player, and was as good as any big guy in the country, and really showed himself to be the most valuable player on that team. And without him playing at that level, I don't think Kentucky would be here, frankly, and be sort of a Final Four contender. I don't think he's in the sort of the Anthony Davis category where he's going to be a top 10 pick type deal. He's certainly not as good as Anthony Davis, but that's sort of the star caliber player. But I think he's going to be a good NBA player for a long time, as long as he stays healthy. And I think he's got the ability to continue to get better, because he's got a good touch, and he's a really good guy too. And so I think he'll fit in wherever he winds up getting drafted.
It's interesting that you brought up Anthony Davis, because I was going to bring that up in this context. Whether it's Anthony Davis, it's DeMarcus Cousins, it's stars like John Wall that have been at the Kentucky program. Derrick Rose didn't play at Kentucky, but he did play under Calipari at Memphis when Calipari was there. I'm thinking about the 29-6 record, the second place finish in the SEC this year. How do you feel about the job John Calipari has done, particularly when we talk about All-Americans, guys that are box office that we talk about? We've been talking about Zion. We've been talking about R.J. Barrett. We're talking about guys that have been at Duke. For once, we haven't been saying that about John Calipari's program, but he still got 29 wins. Talk to me about that.
I'm amazed by what Cal has done at Kentucky, Stephen A. When he first got there in 2010, and he had John Wall and Eric Bledsoe, DeMarcus Cousins, that whole crew, and went to the Elite Eight. Honestly, I didn't think it was possible. I thought sort of the idea in my old school thinking at the time that, well, you have all freshmen, you're going to pay a price for it. They're not going to be as prepared. When the lights go on in the tournament, the bright lights, they're not going to be as prepared as a senior-dominated team, that kind of thing. And that's been proven wrong. Now, you can make the argument that, Kentucky won in 2012, Duke won in 2015 with one-and-doners. You can make the argument, well, the older teams win more often. Well, of course they do, because you're taking two teams out against the field. Of course the field is going to do better. But I think if you look at the overall record of those two teams in the Final Fours and the national championship that Cal has, you'd be hard-pressed to say he'd do better if he had nothing but juniors and seniors like Villanova or North Carolina's had over the past several years. You could make the argument, hey, the older teams have done better. Well, maybe they've done better in a particular year, but over the course of time, very few teams, if any, can match what Duke and Duke and Kentucky have done with their younger players. It's just they're the only ones. Everybody else, they may have one and done player or something like that. Nobody's got 4. Nobody's got 5, whatever it is. it's really remarkable what Calipari's done.
I got to tell you, I think it's just as, if not more remarkable, what Roy Williams has done. And listen, I know, you played at Duke. You've got relationships with all of these folks, but particularly Coach K as well-deserved. Please don't get me wrong. But I'm looking at a guy like Coach K who was already an exceptional coach, already a champion, already a Hall of Famer. And then he had the benefit of coaching Team USA basketball in 2008, 2012, 2016. And yet Roy Williams has been right up the road at Carolina, winning almost as much as he has. I think it's absolutely phenomenal what Roy Williams has been able to do at North Carolina, considering they both basically share the same backyard. Clearly, most of the All-Americans end up going to Coach K, and look what Roy Williams has done. What do you say to that?
I say, I agree 1,000% with everything you just said. I think Roy is one of the great coaches of all time, let alone his time. And if you look at, I think their recruiting was significantly hurt by that whole academic scandal that went on several years ago, because it dragged on forever and dragged the basketball program into it. Mm-hmm. And yet, despite that, he wound up maybe having a little bit of an older team as a result of it. He came within a shot, that Chris Jenkins shot, maybe of winning the 2016 championship that Villanova wound up winning. Then he won in 2017. He's been knocking at the door other years. I think he's got a great shot of winning it this year. I think he's shown he's won, since he's been in North Carolina, I think he's won more championships. Carolina's won more championships than Duke has. He's certainly done every bit as well in the ACC, if not more, as far as regular season championships and tournament championships and all that. So there's no question he's among the greatest coaches. And the job he's done this year, because in January, on January 12th, when they got housed pretty good by Louisville in the Smith Center, I didn't walk out of there saying, well, I'm going to be picking them to win the title. But when the bracket came out, I did. It just shows how far they've come in that 2-3 month period.
Jay Bilas, let's transition to the West region, because we got Gonzaga, those Bulldogs. They've got 33 wins themselves this year, just like Houston. Hachimura and Clark, they could ball their NBA prospects. Hachimura is considered probably a top 5 prospect. How good is this Gonzaga team? I know they beat Duke very, very early in the season with Zion on the court, but it was still relatively early. Talk to me about the Gonzaga that you saw then to the Gonzaga that you see now. And what kind of threat do you consider them to be in terms of getting in Duke's way for a shot at the national title?
They're a legit threat. They're not as big as they were 2 years ago when they went to the championship game and lost to North Carolina. Remember, they had Zach Collins then, who's now in the NBA, and they had Przemek Karnowski, the big 7-footer from Poland. So they don't have that kind of bulk and size, but they do have athleticism. And Brandon Clark is the bulk of it because of his ability to block shots. And, he's a pogo stick jumper and a great rebounder. You hear this about players. You don't have to run a play for him, and that's true of Clark. He doesn't have any plays run for him, but he makes plays seemingly every time down the floor. And Rui Hachimura is a lottery pick, and big body. He can guard any position. So with both Clark and Hachimura, they can switch 1 through 5. They can switch out onto a point guard without a concern. So the thing that impresses me more about Gonzaga, they've always been good offensively, and they are this year, but they're way tougher on the defensive end than people give them credit for. I think they sort of get tagged with, they play in the West Coast Conference, and boy, they can really shoot it. They're the mid-major that can really shoot and pass. But they're good on the glass, and they do not get pushed around. They wind up, they pushed around Florida State, which to accept that physical challenge to out-rebound Florida State by 9, and for Brandon Clark to block 5 shots and play more above the rim than Florida State does, I think that was a pretty solid statement that Gonzaga is not only one of the big boys, they're one of the muscle big boys.
Just a couple more questions here for Jay Bilas right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Texas Tech legit. 29 games, first in the Big 12, and just held Michigan to 44 points. 44.
Yeah, they're legit. They've got a kid, Jared Culver, who's another lottery pick who, sort of is he scores and assists on just about a little over half of their baskets, it seems like. And so Culver's really good. They've got a kid named Davide Moretti who's shooting it really well, good handler, good passer. Matt Mooney was a grad transfer, another guy that can shoot it. They were not very good offensively until about a month and a half ago. For the last month or so, they've been hitting about 10 threes a game. They didn't do it against Michigan, but heck, Michigan was awful. So part of that was a good part of it was Texas Tech's defense. The other part of it was Michigan was just bad. But their offense has improved to the point where it's certainly not a liability for them, and it's not like they have to pitch a shutout in order to win. They can put points on the board too. But they're dangerous just because they stick to their identity. They're going to smash mouth you defensively, and they don't apologize for it. Do I think they're the best team? I don't. Mm-hmm. But they're still good enough to beat Gonzaga and good enough to move on.
Jay, as you watched UCF take Duke and Zion Williamson down to the wire, I mean, I looked at Zion, and you pointed it out on TV earlier today. That second jump of his is so explosive, 280 pounds. This dude is something special. I don't know if I've ever seen anything like him in college basketball. But as you thought the Duke Blue Devils was on the verge of potentially losing this game, what would that have done to the NCAA tournament and the college basketball overall for this season if Zion Williamson had gotten knocked out this past weekend?
Well, it would have contributed to somebody's narrative and agenda about one and done, some of these other things, and about hyping players and all that. And certainly some people would have claimed, okay, well, I told you Duke wasn't for real, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But it certainly would have let a good bit of air out of the tires of the NCAA tournament. I mean, we've had record ratings this year in college basketball, and I know CBS is experiencing record ratings right now for the tournament. And I think you'd be naive to think that's not directly related to Zion Williamson. There are other reasons for it, but Williamson is the biggest reason. And it just goes to show you that players matter. It's not just about, sort of this old axiom about the name on the front of the jersey. I mean, it's not the name on the front. It's both. The players matter. And when your team's winning and you have good players, people watch more. And when you have superstars, they really watch more. And Zion Williamson is a superstar.
And I was getting ready to ask you, Jay, you've seen many, many, many guys come through college basketball throughout your years covering this sport. Talk to me real quickly about, have you seen anything like this kid? Is he as special as advertised? I've seen him in person. I know he is in my mind. What about yours?
I've never seen anything like him on a basketball floor, Stephen A., on any level. When I saw him play in Canada this last summer, I was telling people, hey, wait till this guy will be on SportsCenter every night in the top 10. He'll dominate the SportsCenter top 10. And we're not going to have to explain it after a while. Once you see it, you will be hooked and you'll know it. And, I think we're trying to make comparisons, and that's what we do. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not getting on anybody about it. But there's no comp for this guy. You are saying, well, he's like Charles Barkley with this added, or a more explosive Charles. We have to add to it. There's nobody that's ever been like this guy. It doesn't mean he's the best player that I've ever seen, because he's not. But he's truly unique, and there's never been a guy like him. And I'm not sure we'll see his like again.
It's true. He is unique. He's box office, and he's going to be the number 1 overall pick. We all know it. Who would be your number 2? Ja Morant, R.J. Barrett. Who would be your number 2, Jay Bilas?
Right now, Stephen A., it would be R.J. Barrett, and it would be largely because I think he's been a little bit overshadowed by Zion. But if you switch spots, it would be Ja Morant being overshadowed by him. He actually played AAU ball on the same team as Zion Williamson in South Carolina. Ja Morant did. But R.J. Barrett is a legit 6'5", 6'6", left-handed, can handle and pass. He's had a triple-double earlier this year, one of the best defensive rebounders in the college game, irrespective of size. And I think he's a James Harden-type player. Now, I happen to think that Ja Morant's a Russell Westbrook-type player. So we've got 3 guys in this draft that I think are I don't want to say surefire, but they're all-star caliber talents. And it's just a question of what's going to be best for a team rather than whether these guys could play, because all 3 of them can really play.
Very last question. Who do you have going to the Final Four, sir, to refresh our memory and winning it all?
I had North Carolina beating Duke in the final. I had Virginia going, and I had Michigan, but Michigan kind of let the air out of that one with the way they shot the ball. But I didn't have all 4 number 1 seeds. I probably should have.
Wow. Yeah, I had Duke, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Tennessee. And Tennessee obviously lost in overtime, so that got nixed. That's what I had, Jay.
Yeah, and it's, Stephen, to have this many quality teams make it this far and high seeds, you're not going to have all, everybody make it, all the twos and all that stuff. Somebody's going to get clipped. And Tennessee had a great chance to win it, they just didn't. And that literally was a coin flip game that could have gone either way.
Jay, appreciate the great work. As always, appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. We'll be watching you, buddy. Thank you so much.
Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you.
All right. My man, the one and only, the great one himself, Jay Bilas, does an outstanding job for many, many years for ESPN. Always honored to have him right here with Stephen A. on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 888-SAY-ESPN is the number to call up. That's 888-729-3776. We'll get back to your calls and more in a minute on the NCAA tournament, on the Lakers, on Major League Baseball, on some NFL talk involving Antonio Brown, the Steelers, the Cowboys, the Eagles. The list goes on and on. Don't touch that dial. It's Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, if you haven't tried the delicious high-quality meat from Butcher Box, you're going to be blown away. Butcher Box brings you the meat the way it's meant to be, so you can get all of the benefits you're supposed to get. Unbelievable flavor and unparalleled nutrition. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. From gas-fed beef to free-range organic chicken to wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska. Butcher Box.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Out of style, surprising a friend or loved one with a buy one, get one free multicolored rose bouquets for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. Back to the phones we go, and thanks again to Jay Bilas for coming on the line with us. Let's go to Danny. You're live with Stephen A. Talk to me. Danny, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Stephen A. How are you today?
I'm all right. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. I just want to say a couple things you and I have in common. We like the Yankees, so let's see what they do this year. They got a pretty good start yesterday with their home run ball, but
they better had against the Orioles. But go ahead.
I'm calling you. I live outside of Charlotte. We had a good ACC tournament there in town this year, and I'm a little surprised that maybe Stephen A. didn't pick Virginia to at least be in that top four.
I don't want any parts of Virginia. I don't lie. Listen, they're a damn good team. They can beat anybody. But their defense carries them. Even though they've had some offensively impressive games this year, I'm not sold on them offensively. And I'll be honest with you, from an emotional perspective, I don't want to see them. I really, really don't. I think they make games ugly. I think they turn it into ugly encounters. Their win against Oregon was a testament to that. They shoot 35% from the field, 27% from three-point range, and they still end up winning the game because they hold the team to 49 points. They win ugly, and that's not what I wish to see, so that may have played a role in my unwillingness to pick Virginia.
Okay, I truly understand, but I understand where you're going from. But if you remember years back, Carolina had that 4-point offense, which was definitely slowed the game down, was very boring. But we got to give Tony Bennett an awful lot of credit. He has built the team.
He's a very good team. He's a very good coach. He's a very good coach.
One of the best three-point shooters in the ACC with Kyle Guy, but he's definitely had a night. And then we go over to Carolina. They don't have a three-point shooter. The Johnson kid is excellent, but we also got to give Luke May a lot of credit there.
Well, you can give Luke May. Luke May had 30 and 15 in a win at Cameron Indoor Stadium early in the season against Duke. Cameron Johnson's shooting about 42% from three-point range. Kobe White is no joke, so we know that Carolina is formidable. I've got them. I picked them to win the national championship. But a lot of people are picking Duke and what have you, and that's the way it goes. So, Danny, what you want me to say?
Well, I can't say. Like I said, I know the AC is strong. We have 5 teams in the top 16 here. I'm not a Tech fan, and I've had family that's gone to Tech, but they going over against Duke tonight. But to me, defense does not win a ball game. I agree with you there, Stephen A. And we all like to see the big Zion Williams kid. He's brought so much to the TV and to the program and all. And going up against Coach K or Roy Williams. I think Tony Bennett deserves a lot of credit. He's ACC Coach of the Year, and they were pretty much in that top.
I got you.
ACC program all year long, buddy.
Danny, Virginia's one of the best teams in the game. I got to go. I appreciate the call. They're number one seed for a reason. We know it. We know how formidable they are. But let's see them get it done before we're willing to make Tony Bennett the second coming of Coach K or Roy Williams. Let's see what they do. I appreciate the call, though. Thank you so much. Let's go to Charles. You're live, Stephen A. Go ahead, Charles.
Yeah, how you doing, Stephen A? I got two comments. Mm-hmm. Okay, everybody wants not to blame Magic for the circuses in L.A. L.A. is a circus now, so nobody wants to come and play. First of all, you can't relate to these kids because when Magic Day, they didn't have cell phones. They got cell phones. They carry all kinds of things that, media-wise that they didn't have then. And nobody's saying anything about the guy they traded away that will be the sixth man of the year in Lou Williams. And why is that?
That's true. We should bring up that because that's a tremendous loss. Lou Williams is something special, man. Make no mistake about it. But by the way, I got to be careful of what I'm hearing from you, Charles. Are you saying that unlike unlike Magic or somebody, that you are a proponent and a supporter of Cliff Kingsbury, the new coach for the Arizona Cardinals of the NFL, who is supportive of giving his team cell phone breaks so they could go on social media and check their cell phones in the middle of practice? You're saying you're a proponent of that?
No, absolutely not. But I'm just trying to say you got to deal with what you have now. You're going to let kids come out of the high school going into the NBA. These kids are carrying what's that guy? The SpongeBob SquarePants backpacks, and then all of a sudden you're going to let them in the NBA. And then what do you think they're going to do? I mean, these are kids.
Well, listen, you can talk about what they're going to do, but you got to have rules and regulations. That's like saying, what's your kid going to do? You know what? What the hell you tell him to do? Because you're daddy and you're the boss. And he has the right to do what the hell he's told because it ain't a democracy. And guess what? When you work for a boss, it shouldn't be a democracy to some degree. Certain things, I co-sign with the Jimmy Johnson philosophy. I'm consistent in the fact that I would treat everybody differently. Those who produce get treated better than those who don't. But when you come in and you haven't done anything yet, you're all going to be treated the same and you're going to abide by my rules. And any modifications that I'm willing to throw into the mix, it will be based on your level of production, nothing else. I got to run, Charles. I appreciate it. LJ, you're live with Stephen A. Talk to me.
Stephen A., the MVP discussion is over. James Harden will be back-to-back MVP for this season. The fact that this man is putting up 38, 6, and 6, we haven't seen these numbers since probably Will Chamberlain, Stephen A. So we can end the discussion. James Harden is the MVP. But I got a question.
Go ahead.
We were discussing on my podcast last night. Do you think Jimmy Butler is a top 10 player in this league? Because I would put Damian Lillard and Klay Thompson before him.
No. I don't think Jimmy Butler's a top 10, but I don't think that's any knock against him. He can ball, but I don't think he's a top 10 either. I mean, when I think about Giannis and Harden and LeBron and Durant and Curry and Westbrook and Paul George and Joel Embiid and I just look at Kawhi Leonard, Kyrie Irving, other guys. No, he's not a top 10 player, but he can ball. He can ball. And I do think that when you talk about the Sixers winning the championship, he's got to be a part of that equation because I don't think it could happen without him.
I agree, but like I said, thank you for ending that discussion, and I'll holler at you next week.
Take it easy, man. Dave, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Dave, go ahead.
Sir, I'd like to ask you what you find more compelling, the additions the Cleveland Browns have made or the additions the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have made by hiring Byron Leftwich as an offensive coordinator and some females to the staff.
That's not even a fair question. I appreciate what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have done in terms of a Leftwich, in terms of hiring females, because obviously minorities and diversity is something that's incredibly important to me. The issues of diversity being addressed, that's incredibly important to me. So in terms of importance, I would tell you that would be the story. But in terms of what's the more compelling storyline, there's no doubt what the Cleveland Browns have been doing. You got Baker Mayfield is there. You go out and you grab Odell Beckham Jr. For a first or third. And Peppers as a safety. You still got Chubb back there. You picked up Kareem Hunt in the offseason. Cleveland has gone from a moribund franchise to respectability with Baker Mayfield, to having a new head coach, a quarterback you believe in, 2 stud wide receivers in Beckham and Jarvis who happen to be best friends, okay? A backfield that's going to be led by Kareem Hunt once he serves his 8-game suspension. I don't think any question Cleveland is the more sizzling story, to say the least. I got to go, but I appreciate the call. 888-SAY-ESPN. You're listening live to Stephen A. with ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Get back to your calls to close out the show in a minute. By the way, as the new season gets underway, the TuneIn app has every baseball fan covered from opening day to the World Series. Listen to your favorite team with live calls from every MLB game with TuneIn Premium. Your all-in-one audio app, TuneIn brings together not only MLB coverage, but other live sports, music, news, and podcasts, including all of your favorite ESPN Radio podcasts, like The Stephen A. Smith Show. Download the TuneIn app and begin your free 30-day trial of TuneIn Premium today. Whether or not he was the best player on Duke, because that's how big time. That's right. Into the season, he exactly. Pick and draft. And that's how big time he was. But Zion is definitely elevated to another level. And when we look at R.J. Barrett, he's not ambidextrous. You don't see him using that right hand nearly enough. It's almost like he's going left. He's going left. Do you think to some degree R.J. Barrett's stock has been compromised this season in any way?
No, because he's going to go too. He's gonna sign a good shoe deal. He's gonna probably be on a bad team, but no. Facilitating, getting others involved, and he could be a good defender. Mm-hmm. I like his game. Morant has a second speed, elevates. He's got a gift of vision that is very, very rare. With more space and better players, I think he could be really, really, really special because, NBA, you outlet the ball to the hash mark almost, or about 3-point line extended. Now, when he's taking 2 dribbles, he can drop dimes from there with right hand, with left hand. Like I see he's the Patrick Mahomes of college basketball. He's as good at passing with his offhand as Mahomes does when he's zigging and zagging, running out of the pocket and flipping it around all over the place. So he's going to get better. He's got a really good feel. He's a very good teammate. I think his upside is incredible because of his speed, his vision, his elevation. I just think he has a chance to really, really move the needle.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
When I went home last night, you wouldn't make love to me. You went fast asleep. You wouldn't even talk to me. You see, I'm so crazy. Coming home intoxicated. Old school, Rick James. If you missed any of the show today, go check it out on demand in the Stephen A. Smith Podcast, brought to you by Capital One Save a Card. Earn 4% cash back on dining and entertainment, 2% in grocery stores, and 1% on all other purchases. Hey! What's in your wallet? To the phones we go before we get on out of here. Dave, you're live, Stephen A. Real quick, Dave, go.
Stephen A., hey, thanks for taking my call. 2 quick questions.
Yep.
Zion as a person, from a dominance level, how do you think he stacks up to Glenn Robinson And then as an entire team, how do you think they compare against the 1990, I think it was, UNLV Running Rebs?
Well, let me say this. As a team, listen, I think they're comparable as a team. The Running Rebels was something special with Greg Anthony, Anderson Hunt, Larry Johnson, Stacey Augman, and the crew. Oh, I remember. But I would tell you that they're comparable because they can amp it up defensively. They weren't great shooters, but could shoot perimeter shots, even though Anderson Hunt could shoot. So I would say it's a worthy comparison, but I thought that UNLV team had more weapons than this Duke team. Duke, to me, is about R.J. Barrett and Zion, whereas UNLV was about the whole crew of dudes. As it pertains to Zion and Big Dog Robinson, Big Dog was skilled. Big Dog would slice you and dice you because he was a scoring machine and you couldn't stop him. So his skill level was there. But Zion has the intimidation factor because he's a locomotive coming at you because he's 280 pounds. So Big Dog could put up similar numbers, but Zion has the ability to punish you physically in a way that Big Dog didn't do because he was just so skilled with a sweet J, he could just hurt you that way. But he didn't punish you physically the way Zion's 280 pounds can punish you. That's the difference. Got to get on out of here. Looking forward to this NCAA tournament game. Duke, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and Purdue. That's my Final Four. Holla at y'all Monday. Until then, peace and love.
Hey, what's up? It's Will Kane. Coming up.